All right, all. Thanks for being with me. This is going to be kind of like two different bookends because the last episode I talked about my morning routine. Today, in this episode, I want to talk about my evening routine. And so, just for a treat, just like I invited you into my morning routine, I'm inviting you now into my evening routine. So, I don't know if you can hear this. Can you? I'm going to pause for a second. I just hope you can kind of hear the sounds that I'm hearing. Okay, and if you can't hear that, I'm sitting on my porch and I can just, the sun has already gone down behind the mountains. Right now we're in this gorgeous valley on the Wasatch Back. We're in Midway, Utah. So the sun's gone down, but it's still kind of light out. But definitely it's evening already. And so we're getting crickets. We're still getting a little chirping of the birds, right? We're not hearing the geese anymore because they've already traveled back to their roost. Anyway, that's the environment I'm staring at right now. It's just gorgeous. And I wanted to invite you into this because, again, this whole podcast is about how do we become sovereign individuals and families. And you do that by being a disciplined person, right? Finding systems and rules that make a difference in your life, and you stick to them with consistency. Even when you don't want to, even when they're hard, even when they're inconvenient, even when your brain is screaming at you to just break that rule, you say, no, this is important. I'm going to do this. And so today, in this episode, it's all about the evening routine. So how you do, there's a quote, and I hope I get this right, but I'm pretty sure this quote is by Jim Rohn. Love Jim Rohn. He was, if you don't know who Jim Rohn is, he was the mentor and coach to Tony Robbins. So you probably know who Tony Robbins is. He's probably the most well-known, world-famous speaker and influencer. He's been speaking and influencing for, long before the internet existed and before influencer was like even a term. And so he's just a really powerful person. Well, his mentor was Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn is just kind of, he's not alive anymore, but he's really a thought leader of like self-development, self-help, high performance coaching, and just how to be an awesome human being, how to create a life and a vision for yourself of what you want and how you make it happen. And so one of the quotes, and I really hope I'm quoting it right, if he didn't directly say this, if he didn't invent this quote, I know he said it, but how you do something is how you do everything. And so sometimes we kind of lie to ourselves and say, I've been good lately, I can just kind of break the rule this one time. And it just doesn't work that way, okay? And on the flip side, it's not about being like a Pharisee, right? Like a Pharisaical lifestyle where like it all becomes all about the rules. So of course there are exceptions, but if we approach it looking for exceptions, I promise, then we're going to find exceptions all over the place and we're not going to get good results, and then we're going to throw up our hands and say, see, I told you the rules and the systems don't work. And the reality is they work, you just don't work. So this episode is about systems. This episode in particular is about what do you do in the evenings and why does it matter for sovereignty? So a sovereign individual and family is someone who can function at their very highest. Okay, think of things that are just like the most benign reasons why you'd want to function at your most highest. Like you just want to do the most good in the world. Okay, you want to lift someone's spirits, right? You just want to make the most people happy or something. So like you want to be a high functioning person, to have the energy, to have the attention to perceive how the people around you are feeling, and have the energy and focus to focus on them, on how to help them feel better. Okay? Now what if you have something that's maybe not so altruistic, something that's maybe a little more just ambitious or selfish, and you want to make the most money, you want to become the wealthiest person you possibly can be. And it's not competition, right? It's not being the wealthiest person in the world or of all time necessarily, but the wealthiest version of yourself. Okay? Remember, it's not a competition, it's just you versus you. And so what does that look like, right? Well, you have to have your wits about you. You have to be understanding the marketplace. You have to have really great relationships with people who are investors and employees and coaches, and you have to be curious and a good leader and a good learner, right? And so in order for that to happen, you have to be a high-performing human being. Now, what about something more concerning? What about during a global pandemic? Something, let's say it starts with C and ends in Ovid-19 or something, right? Just pulling that name out of a hat. But if a pandemic were to happen, what would separate the masters or the sovereign individuals from the people who are not free? Well, wouldn't you say that they are healthy, that they have a high resistance to illness, that they have a good understanding of, in a storm of information and hysteria, they have a good system to evaluate truth and get good information and then make decisions based on that information? Or how about during a war, right? Like, don't you think the people who are sovereign will be able to defend themselves, to move their family where it needs to be safe? In the state of like supply chain disruptions, they'll be able to have the networks and people that they know who they can get the supplies that they need, even when the rest of the world can't. Okay, so if you're wanting to become a sovereign individual or a sovereign family, then another way of saying that is you're trying to become a high performance human being, high functioning. Of course, we hope that there's never a war. We hope there's never a pandemic. But it doesn't mean your self-preparation is wasted. It just means that you're a high-performing, high-functioning human being. And so what does it mean to be a sovereign, to be free? It means to be a high-performing human being. And how do we get that? Well, we develop systems and we develop discipline around those systems and around the truths that we know that will put us in a physical, mental, and financial state, an emotional state, to be free. And so those systems include how do you have a clear mind, and how do you have energy, how do you have health? Well, you have to have you have to sleep well. You have to have a good night's sleep so that you wake up, and when you wake up, you're not hitting the snooze button like 10 times. And then when you finally get out of bed, you're not dragging yourself out of bed, and you're not slogging all the way to work, and you're not like drinking a bunch of energy drinks or coffee or something and addicted to all kinds of substances just so you can halfway function or something, only to not be fulfilled during your day so that you binge watch Netflix, stay up too late, and then start the whole process all over again. Which is what a lot of people do. So the sovereign individual is the opposite of that. The sovereign individual says, well, I want to wake up energized and ready and alive, and so I'm going to wake up at an early hour, well rested, and right when I wake up, I'm going to be excited. I'm going to know exactly what I'm doing, and that way I'm not wasting any time. And so how do we get there? Right, and we talked a little bit about that in the morning routine, about like what we do once the alarm goes off, but it starts the night before. Okay, so you ready? This is the evening routine. The evening routine sets up the morning, and then the morning sets up your day, and your day sets up your evening. It's all one cycle. How you do one thing is how you do everything. All right, so the evening, you can't first, a lot of the evening is about sleep. Like, you just need to get into, like, the quicker you can get into a deep state of sleep, the quicker you can enter like a REM cycle, and your body starts to recover, your brain starts to recover. And so that's kind of the goal. The evening routine all leads up to how do I get into a deep state of sleep, as quick as possible. Well, what we do is at least like probably here's a couple of things, right? I'm going to share with you 3 things that are part of my evening routine. One of those is you need to stop eating at a decent hour, and by decent hour is probably about 3 hours before you go to bed. Okay, because the digestive tract just needs to settle down. Like to get to a deep state of sleep, your body needs to transfer. I know like the digestion, it happens on autopilot, like a subconscious thing, but it consumes the attention and energy of your subconscious brain, and it consumes real energy and real resources, real blood. And so for you to get into a deep state of sleep, that blood, that energy, and that attention of your subconscious needs to be transferred to other things. And so if you eat a super late dinner and try to go to bed like an hour later, then your body's still going to be digesting, and it's going to happen is you're not going to really get deep sleep until your body finishes like digesting most of what it needs to, right? And so you can kind of go to sleep. It'll be like a pseudo sleep, but you're not going to hit a REM cycle if you're eating like right before bed. So general rule of thumb is 3 hours before bed. Okay, so if you're going to go to bed by 10, then you need to stop eating roughly 7 o'clock. Okay, and then 2 hours before bed, you need to stop. Your brain needs to start to kind of unwind. So you need to like stop taking phone calls and stop like focusing so heavy and so hard on work, and you need to start thinking about other things, because like your brain, if you're so like a high performing individual, when it's go time, like they go. I mean, they're in whatever field or craft you're in, like they are invested, they're all in. So if they're a business person, like they are negotiating, they're going from like deal table to deal table, like they're on their A game. If entrepreneur, you're scrappy, you're trying to fight fires all day and trying to move the needle forward and try to get funding and try to build back-end systems and market and all this kind of stuff. So you're just like, you're going. If you're a parent, right, you're like planning an experience. You are like reading the books so that you can turn around and teach that thing to your child, right? You are solving tough emotional problems, right? When like someone offended someone else and some friend didn't invite your kid to a birthday party or whatever, right? It's like you're trying to help navigate some tough things, or like navigate your kids getting along, or planning an experience and kind of engineering things for your kids. Like you're on your A game. High performance people, they get into it and they're super deep into it. But at some point, if you want to get into a deep state of sleep, at some point your brain needs to switch. It needs to make a switch so that it's not in this like this A level what do you want to call it? It's not on, right? And so I don't mean like turn it off and veg. That's the wrong thing to do. But you've heard me talk about this. If you're not actively engaged, then you need to be strategically disengaged. So about 2 hours before bed, we typically we aren't being engaged in like volunteer assignments and phone calls and different things. Like typically we're trying to do more creative things. Like we have a ukulele or a harmonica that I like to pick up and play. I make up stories to tell the kids. We read good books with the kids. We play. We just, I don't know, we do more creative things. And so that kind of helps the brain unwind. And then 1 hour before bed, at very least 1 hour, is no screens. Because screens like television, computer, phones, they have blue light in it, and that blue light, it does something when it hits your eye, and then it does something to your brain. It kind of hijacks your brain a little bit, and it's a signal, because blue light is what the sun, as the sun rises, it emits blue light. It's what's hitting the earth and hitting your body, and its job, the frequency of blue light, we are tuned as a mammal, biological organism. Once we sense blue light in our environment, we are tuned to wake up. We're tuned to get excited. And so it's very problematic to have your phone out in bed scrolling, and you're like, I'm trying to wind down, so I'm just gonna scroll through social media. It's sabotaging your night. All it's doing is like you can fall asleep, but your brain's going to be active for another hour, and so you might pseudo fall asleep, but you're not going to get quality sleep for another hour. So you're just kind of sabotaging your sleep. Okay, so those are some things that I've learned that help, right? So, and by the way, I first learned this from Brendan Burchard. Okay, and he has what it's called the 3-2-1 rule, because that's exactly what I just told you. So 3 hours before bed, stop eating. 2 hours before bed, stop working. 1 hour before bed, no screens. Okay, 3-2-1. Now, one other thing I'd share with you about the morning routine or the evening routine is to think about the next day. Like, one of the problems with the morning is that I'm a human being just like you and just like everybody. So when you wake up, like a lot of times it's you want to go back to sleep, like you're kind of tired, but if you knew, like if you had a drill sergeant or somebody like that who was standing over your bed like, hey, get up, get your shoes on, and then they wait for you to get your shoes on, and they're like, now, I don't know what's the next step. So get up, brush your teeth, put deodorant on, get dressed, put your shoes on, go out and run. If you had someone who's just kind of dictating that to you, they wouldn't even have to be too aggressive. It's just the fact that you didn't have to think too hard about it. Someone's just like giving you the next thing. It'd be a whole lot easier for you to get out of bed. And so you try to kind of recreate that by the night before, making sure that you're spending time thinking about the next day, and say, okay, I know I'm going to go and run, so I should probably prep my shoes and my clothes and my things. So the less time I have to fumble around looking for things, the higher chance it is that when my body is aching and it wants to sleep longer, that I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to keep to my schedule because I don't have to think too hard. It's like there's my shoes, there's my deodorant, there's my whatever, and I just go. Okay. And so the night before, you prep for the next day. So you prep for the things, not just physically by like finding your actual stuff, but also mentally. Like, what are you gonna do so if whatever you got going the next day, like, are you a business owner? Who are you gonna call? What's the big sale? Like, of all the things. So first, it doesn't matter who you are, business owner, parent, whatever. Like, you probably have a huge to-do list. A lot of things. On that list, I promise you, most of that stuff is not going to make the biggest difference. So you have to scan that list and say, all right, I'm going to pick something. I have to say no to almost everything else. This one thing is what has to get done for me to actually make a difference, a measurable difference in my life. Like, of all the conversations and all the chores and all the things I could, clean and the messages I could send, like, this is the one thing, this thing. And if this one thing gets done, I will have moved the needle in my life. Okay, so like the night before, scan your to-do list, because that thing changes sometimes every day. So scan your list and be like, all right, tomorrow morning, I'm gonna, do remember the morning routine, savers. So here's my morning routine. I'm gonna have my running shoes ready. I'm going to have my audiobook prepped. I'm going to have my journal where it needs to be, my book where it needs to be. And then right when I'm done with that, I'm going to move into my work day. And here's the one thing that has to get done. And I know that my phone is going to start ringing. I know emails are going to come in, but it doesn't matter because this is the one thing that has to get done. And if I do all this the night before, it makes it so easy to do the morning routine the next day. And if you nail the morning routine and you get into your work day, and then you nail your daily purpose, the one thing you're trying to get done that day, then I promise it's so much easier to put the phone down, put the screens away, to unwind at night, because you feel joy, you feel fulfilled, you feel like you've done what you need. Like, of course, you haven't done everything. Of course, there's always more things to do, but you can rest assured that I can turn my phone off, and life's going to be okay. You know why? Because I did that one thing today that I can measure the result, that I'm moving forward. It gives me the confidence to turn my phone off and just be present and work on something that I love doing. Right? Practice singing, practice playing an instrument, be with the family, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's it. And again, I'm come back to where I was at the beginning. I hope you can hear right now the crickets are chirping. The sun, it was already down, but now it's even darker. It's just kind of this calm right now. And so I want to share this calm with you. This is what I take with me to bed. I let my mind unwind. And I got plenty of things to worry about. I got plenty of things that I wish were different, right? About the world, or different situations, or different things that I'm striving for. But yet I can sit in this moment and feel calm, feel peace. That puts me in a state where I can sleep really good, and I can get up early, way before the sun gets up, way before most people get up, and I can go crush it. I can go do what I got to do tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. Again, hopefully this was a good return on your attention. If you'd like me to cover anything else specific, please reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Stephen Barrow on Instagram, Stephen Barrow on LinkedIn, or at Barrow Steve on Instagram. And shoot me a DM. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll catch you around.